What's up, guys? This is Ray. So today is officially the 15th of September 2017, and I've been having some huge psychic inclinations, more or less, more than I've ever had. It's actually way overwhelming, more so than anything else that I've been going through. But I've been kind of piecing together some concepts that I initially was kind of blurting out, probably prematurely. And specifically, in recent times, just because of how detailed, accurate some of my claircognizant, galactic center kind of intuitive, Mad Libs as I call it, has been getting very, very specific, and I have it thoroughly documented to correlate with actual events that have been transpiring. I felt that it was possibly important to not only review, I always review, but especially now since I've had a definitely substantial mental shift, to potentially review anything that has specifically happened within recent times and or will contribute to ongoing events that will be transpiring throughout the rest of this year in 2017. So this particular video that I happen to look back at, it was earlier this year in March, and it was a transit discussion about Ceres and Mars being conjunct in the sign of Taurus. And I am not really highlighting transits per se with Mars, but we do have Ceres. Ceres is no longer in Taurus, but we do have Eris in Taurus, and I want to distinguish the difference between Ceres and Eris. I know that there's a little bit confusion with some symbolism with some of the asteroid points as well as planets, and I'm going to use real-life examples to actually distinguish the difference between the two. And it's very important that you actually know the difference, because Eris naturally is more of a deviant, a fire starter, or somebody who is a troublemaker. Ceres is the epitome of healing and nurturing and unconditional, compassion, caring, and actual. It's just in general supposed to be all holistic. Eris, although the repercussions or the effects of Eris's influence on things can result in some sort of therapeutic sort of realization or just a happy accident, the nature of Eris is not naturally supposed to be as it is with Ceres, and the intention is not supposed to be holistic and supportive. So I'm going to go ahead and just play some of the clip from the original video, and then I'll just interject here and there as well. We have Neptune retrograde right now, so that would be revealing of secrets. And if I remember correct, when Neptune went retrograde, Eris was in fact in the 12th house, meaning that when Neptune goes retrograde, the veil is essentially lifted over whatever is in the 12th house specifically, and or anything that's in a large aspect pattern with Neptune. So Eris essentially being in the 12th house would signify any kind of deviancy, intentional, malicious, sabotaging, that sort of thing, that will now come out of the woodworks. And because there's been a lot of this illusionment of good intentions going on, I think that's been transpiring since there was the opposition between Jupiter and Neptune when it was in Virgo a couple years ago. I'm going to go ahead and point some things out, because as we're progressing throughout September and we go into the first midweek, second week of October, we're going to have Jupiter transition into Scorpio. I've highlighted what that represents in my Jupiter and Scorpio transit video. You can find it on my YouTube channel as well. But just the short and sweet version of that is that it's going to highlight all of the false narratives, the lies and secrets supposed to do with the 8th house. So the individual secrets that have been potentially harming the collective. And it's going to be the bullshit, the bullshit detector. And me being a Plutonian naturally, and also I'm going to be having, I have a 0 degrees Mercury in Scorpio conjunct with Pluto. As soon as Jupiter goes into Scorpio, I'm going to be basically whistleblowing on a bunch of things. I've obviously been practicing that for quite some time. Scorpio Mercury is known for being a very, very good detective, and I'm at least doing it more constructively wise, and despite the fact that I was kind of, advised to censor myself from the internet and to not basically taint my potential reputation, which it's always been tainted, so that's a little too late for that. I feel like I actually built on, or I'm continuing to build on, some of the concepts that I did initially, and I've just given myself some time to reflect on it. And just with actually some of the claircognizant ideations and confirmations from the dead, if you haven't been familiar with some of my paranormal and parapsychology vlog discussions I've had with them, they've brought some things to my attention as of recent that apparently they've been trying to bring to my attention for quite some time now, and I was totally missing it. And yeah, it's definitely made an eye-opener and made a very clear, crystal clear distinction between how Eris in Taurus would be symbolized with events and how Ceres in Taurus would be symbolized with events. And even when I was referencing Ceres conjunct with Mars in Taurus, it is still not the same. The Mars conjunct with Ceres in Taurus is more or less the path, the good intentions that is paved to hell. But at some point when you realize that that path is going towards hell, it's Eris that's actually continuing to drag you down that path and pretend like it's still okay. That's the difference. So I'm just going to play little clips here of the initial video, and I reference some actual, effects that are going on with some sea life, with particular transits that happened, that would be detrimental to people's health. And then I'm going to actually look up the references, because I was trying to look back and review some of the references that I was highlighting with this, and then I happened to notice last night as well that even some of my own Google search history has been warped and changed. And I have been periodically keeping track on the way that things have been filtered out on internet searches, and I just wanted to make sure that the actual references that I originally use are still accessible. But not only did I find that, but I'm not entirely sure if it's because they're actually filtering the fictitious narratives that are just supposed to be supportive to the Pluto and Capricorn associations to the top, or if people are just continuing to be that fucking stupid that they don't even, well, of course they don't. I mean, I've already proven that. People don't even click on links anymore. I mean, yeah. So I'm going to show you some things, and I'm also going to show you how to implement the benefits of Ceres in your behavior with your choices that will not only potentially make your life healthier and happier, but it'll actually save your life too, because everybody's lives are in potential danger at this point. And I'm not talking about just actual contaminations and radiation for any cause of that. I'm talking about actual malicious intent to cause harm, and legitimate conspiracies, as much as that sounds really crazy and Neptunian, legitimate conspiracies that are of grave concern that I'm sure one day I'll probably get shot for. But I'm going to do the right thing and let it be known, because I could never stand by, just like other people are at this point in time, and just allow it to happen. In fact, I'd like to highlight another thing as well. I used to get upset when I was first, getting into transit predictions, saying, I can't be the only astrologer that's starting to see stuff like this, especially with me being so, inexperienced. I started to feel confident enough to share some of my insights and some of my predictions in the professional astrology groups that are on Facebook. Obviously, with Facebook having advertisements and having business pages and stuff like that, and people actually having a good percentage of businesses, online businesses or entrepreneurships through Facebook, I would ideally think that Facebook is a professional place, that I wouldn't necessarily have to worry about there being some sort of credibility issue, and or people just not being what's the word? I can't respect them, because I was hoping that I could find some respectable astrologers. Funny enough, a lot of people have actually, confronted me or criticized, very brutally sometimes, some of the things that I'm saying, because truth is always rejected. It's first it's mocked and ridiculed, and then it's violently opposed, and we're getting to that extent, and I'm feeling that extent kind of right now, and then it's accepted. Well, here's the funny thing. So there's this Association for Professional Astrologers group that's on Facebook, and I happen to share this meme about Pat Condell. He's a British native that talks about the effects of the Muslim migrants from his own perspective. And I happen to make a habit of turning the captions on with, YouTube videos and just showing some of the keywords and everything, since I focus on, keywords and translations and that sort of thing. And I can, equate certain symbols and themes and stuff to just single words. I was using that to emphasize on him talking about, the structures and then the powers that be with Pluto and Capricorn abusing its authority and or being manipulated, and Neptune and Pisces being the bleeding heart of the liberals, or the disillusionment and the illusion and the manipulation of the second, well, it's not the second, but it's essentially another Persian, Ottoman or Islamic conquest for Europe. And so I referenced that, and all I didn't even use any of my own words. All I did was screen cap some of his exact content, talking about how the Arab ambassador talked to Thomas Jefferson, 200 something years ago, which is associated with Pluto and Capricorn synchronistically, about asking him why he enslaves this, why he enslaves that. He would be referencing directly with the Atlantic slave trade that was established with Portugal and Spain. And then it said because the Quran instructs us to do that to non-believers, and that was the essential synchronistic sort of thing with that. It was them basically, being abusive and enslaving and being a totalitarian on the seas or to the collective at large globally by enslaving, innocent people that they took captive in Africa and throughout, the Arabic Peninsula and throughout parts of Asia and then even parts of Europe once it hit the Crusades time, and doing what they want with them, which has been a problem in recent times with like the Yazidis. It's been having issues with like the Kurds. There's obviously sex trafficking and enslavement, underground rings going on throughout all of Europe. There's now over a dozen children, and when I say children, they're like teenage age, that have somehow suddenly gone missing within a 50-mile radius of Dearborn, Michigan. Just go Google Dearborn, Michigan, and type in Islam. If Google will let you do that anymore. If not, you can always go to Migrant Pandemic or the Counter Jihad Coalition. They have accurate, thorough documentation of all reports, events, and even just social media stuff that's being voluntarily uploaded by Muslim, I guess those of the devout Muslim faith. But anyway, so I was called racist for that in multiple other groups, and I was attacked, and I figured as much, even though Islam's not a race. But funny enough, the other astrology groups, mocked me, laughed, or whatever. I happened to post it in there, and there was an individual that apparently writes for, I can't remember what astrologer magazine it is. It's not like Mountain Astrologer or anything. It's another one that like Donna from Kepler College it contributes to. I can't remember the name of the lady. But when I posted that was the first time that somebody who quote unquote has some sort of credible reputation not only didn't mock me, but actually agreed with what I was saying, and saying that Neptune and Pisces has it confuses compassion with essentially compassion with sense and reason. And she says that she emphasizes on this more or less in this issue that's going to be coming out. And I was like, wow, that's so awesome. So not only, obviously I already know I'm on track. Hello. That's what you look in an Infirmus for. That's supposed to be the record of, all planetary alignments and synchronistic cycles and shit. That's essentially the whole reason why astrology was created, so you can base it off that. It's the same in modern context how meteorologists base a lot of their generated, trajectories for storms and stuff off of previous data from other storms that they have collected in the computer system. This is the Akashic or the ancient database with that. So, it was just nice to have somebody who is quote unquote credible stature actually acknowledge that. I've also shared random images of these things that are quote unquote controversial or rejected by the astrological community on my Facebook Messenger, because you have that whole you can share your day thing. I love that thing because I can post just random images that, yeah, I spam all over my Facebook wall, but the beauty of that is I actually get to see who looks at it. And numerous times there are some astrologers that repeatedly reject my narrative, tell me I'm full of shit, talk crap about me to other people, say that I don't know what I'm talking about, and have even talked down to me with speakers from NORWAC and some other professionals from the AFA and the OPA. But they continually will look at my stuff, and you'd think that maybe they're just trying to be nice and not say anything. Oh no, trust me, there are plenty of astrologers out there, regardless if they're seen as professional or certified or whatever, that have no problem and do not hesitate to mock me and basically try to put me in my place, more or less. So, I posted that image on the Association for Professional Astrologers, and I started having an argument with like the Uncensored Astrology group. It's just, a fan page, and they were saying this is so stupid. So I was like, no, not only because I've done a thorough, video on the educational history of this, the synchronicity of, the Persian, the Ottoman invasions, the Arab nations, the Islamic conquests, it's like the War of the Crusades that went from like the 9th to the 12th century, which was a response to basically they're getting their ass handed to them by the Muslims coming in, which is happening again, hence why I point this out. I'm only interested in really current events, and I validate and confirm, at least for myself, so I'm accurate with current events to past events. It had nothing to do with me actually proving anything, but at least I was like, okay, so nobody can actually watch my video, maybe it's because I just couldn't talk then well enough or whatever, on all my proof that I found. Even my whiteboard I filled with like different exact dates of things with the planet alignments. So nobody believed that, so I was thinking, maybe it's because I'm a nobody or whatever, so I was going to go and reference that lady who said she was writing that article, and I hadn't read it yet. I happened to not reference it right away, so I had to go back and look for it. I went back and I was like, man, and I post, the same posts to multiple astrology groups and multiple groups in general. I initially was just doing that, just so I could spread it and find, the scarce people that are interested in my stuff. I have had a happy accident with that and realized that I can now tell when somebody is actually filtering my shit, removing it, and pretending they didn't, or I can actually tell if something's been altered or fucked with, because that's a continuing issue, obviously, with information being warped. So I saw that I shared it on all that, and I was like, weird. And obviously that lady, being a professional, is only posting in that group. I couldn't find it anywhere. So then I even went back in, Facebook has this new feature where you can actually go into the search bar up there and like type in your name or type in, keywords for a post or whatever like that, or profile or page. And I typed in the Professional Association for Professional Astrologers group, and then I said, search posts within this group, and I typed my name into it, and it showed, because I posted my solar, my solar eclipse transit prediction video right after that, the same day. And then I looked in the list of my activity in that group, and the next actual activity that I had was about 3 weeks prior. Doesn't make any sense. I went back and looked in all the other groups that I simultaneously, I spammed it, I do spam it. I share, do it all at once so I don't forget which ones I did it in. And I had all the screen caps from doing that. And then I had even other astrologers, in the mundane astrology group, making fun of me and stuff. So I had proof that I actually posted it then. And then I had the screen cap initially of me posting that. And then that lady actually saying that, and I just didn't get the comment of her referencing the magazine. So I noticed something that was fascinating. Somebody in the professional astrology group just removed my post altogether. Didn't respond to it, didn't dislike it. I occasionally will get messages, like message requests or whatever, or messages in general, from admins from different groups that don't like my posts because I'm rejected all the time, blah, 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 blah. It's part of my chart. And I didn't get any messages from that. I don't even know who the admins are for the Association for Professional Astrologers group. But it was just removed. So I went back in there. I had all the screen caps. And I basically thoroughly pointed out that I know, and whoever deleted this knows, exactly why this was removed. The reason why you removed it is pretty much explains exactly what's going on. The fact that you actually know that what I'm saying is true, but for whatever reason, you don't want to acknowledge it. And you realize that either because that person who is the admin for that, or may know somebody else, knows that I'm very combative, and I will not hesitate to make a scene, to basically not prove that I'm right, but to actually reveal the truth, because that's really important to me. So instead of actually, confronting me and saying, we don't appreciate that, or that's racist, or because it doesn't matter if they say it's racist, because usually people back down to that, but I don't, and most people know that. So, and actually more people know my name than I realized, and it's not because they like me. I mean, but is that anything new? So I'm sure that somebody who knows somebody that's not part of the admins for that group knows who I am and realizes the best thing to do would actually, theoretically, and of course them being professional astrologers, they know that Neptune's retrograde right now. The best thing for them to do would actually be to just try to sweep it under the rug and see if they can get past me. And they insult my intelligence by doing so, and I happen to catch it. Actually, I could probably thank the dead for that, because I'm starting to notice too, some people have been like, wow, why are people coming after you? Why are people coming after you? Every single person that comes and decides to counter, contradict my narrative, or tell me I'm stupid or dumb, I know that just gets me worked up, and when I get pissed or whatever, I just am motivated to stick my nose to the grindstone and prove my actual theories, or thoroughly lay out, these are all my sources, this is why, and da 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 da. And I get really fixated on the Virgo Mars thing, from A to Z. If I were to teach this as an actual step-by-step thing, that's what it ends up turning into when I'm lecturing people. I've noticed now that there's a correlation between when the ethers want to talk to me about something in particular, and somehow random, it's not even people I know, but random antagonists just show up out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow. And when they really start to act freaking crazy, that's when it really goes off, and I really need to tell them, dude, you have some mental problems. And things that they exactly say is part of the context that some of the ethers use when they're revealing some sort of information or event to me. So it was actually the ethers that were antagonizing people in that uncensored astrology group to essentially make fun of me, to then make me feel that I was going to go back and go get that source. So I posted it and I said, so I'm well aware that this is here now, and I have the screen caps and I have them saved on external hard drives as well, so there's no way that you could possibly get rid of the evidence, and if you delete this again, it will just further demonstrate that exactly what I'm accusing you of is right, because they did not want to give me the platform and the opportunity to actually call them out and reveal that they actually do know what's going on. I actually started to think they have to know what's going on. And then I started to actually think that maybe people don't know what's going on, besides Robert Hand anyway. It's maybe people don't know what's going on. Clearly people know what's going on. And that one lady, writing an article about this, I'm sure she kind of sidestepped and tiptoed around the essential white elephant in the room, which is the thing that I decided to put a huge bullet point on and put Christmas lights around and go, look at this fucking thing. Because that's how I am. It's things like that. So there are people that actually know. I don't know the extent if they actually are somehow directly supporting what would be associated with Eris in Taurus at this time, or Eris in general, or even Black Moon Lilith for that matter, or if they're being bribed, if they're being intimidated, or if they actually just don't want to stick their neck out because it doesn't benefit them, because they have no, dignity, moral ethics, or, integrity within themselves in general. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but all I know is that I've thoroughly proven that there are people in the professional astrological community that thoroughly know exactly what's going on. And the astrological community as a whole is more of the leftist-leaning sort of thing that is very, very, it's very evident that they're advocates for cultural diversity and for anything that's different from traditional values. So the one thing I have proven is that people are either, I already know that there's some people that are intentionally causing, sabotaging things or causing chaos or whatever like that. But now it's been proven that there are people that actually are bystanders or accessories that are either helping them cover it up or just making sure they don't ever go out of their way, or they squash any opportunities for anybody else to basically call them out and bring some very interesting conspiracy sort of things to the limelight. So with this therapeutic sort of thing that we're going to talk about how you can implement Ceres and Taurus like behaviors and attributes and conditioning, good habits to combat the Aries and Taurus manifestation that will continue to transpire and get worse. And just wait until Taurus is the ruler of Uranus next year. It's going to get way worse, because Uranus can also be associated as a rebel or eccentric or dysfunctional or abnormal, but it's also a trauma signature. Aries can cause trauma, but it's not guaranteed to be traumatic. Uranus can be rebellious and sabotaging, but it's always guaranteed to be traumatic. So the repercussions of whatever transpires because of Aries and Taurus will be the catalyst that will then reveal or, basically demonstrate the extensive wounds and damages and, debilitations that will be evident as time goes on. I'm sorry that I blabbed super, super long. I've been really, on that lately. So I'm just gonna let it pick up from the clip from the original video for the Ceres and Taurus transit video I did in March. And then I'm gonna interject and show you some very fascinating things with internet sources, and that the first way to nurture yourself, heal yourself, and to be self-sufficient, because that's going to be a very big key factor with this and ongoing into 2018. But I'm going to highlight some things that are very easy to pick up. I know that not everybody's a Scorpio Mercury, not everybody's like a detective sort of thing. But this being, Virgo season, this is the ample time, essentially, to try to instill these kind of habits, or at least, giving you these tricks and stuff, to pay attention. And I know this is very hard, and that people are being conditioned psychologically with subliminal suggestions to just be accepting and submissive and not actually seek out answers or, question anything. But once your survival kind of, instinct switch kicks on from all the epidemics and catastrophic events that will soon transpire that are actually intentionally orchestrated, you will hopefully maybe either look back at this video if it still exists on here, or I'll find another platform in order to have it, or you can, pay me and I can actually send you the file or something. Or you can buy my Chaos Almanac that I'm essentially, I had planned on, releasing one each year. I've been kind of going through a complete mental flip the last week or so. I still would probably say that I'm still going to do it to some extent. I'll put something in writing. But essentially, once your survival instincts kick in and desperation starts, hopefully you'll think back and remember some of the things that I mentioned, and or come back and reference this again for your own benefit, so you can be more self-sufficient, self-reliant, and be able to pick out the authentic sources and the actual core motives of things, and make sure that you are referencing the right material, and that the people that are actually projecting it or basically broadcasting it have the proper intentions, instead of actually looking at facts, because people don't know what facts are anymore, nor science. And even with the Uranus-Pluto square causing the Wonderland manifestation, traditional norms or things that would be typical, for example, how none of the meteorologists can actually graph out at least, really close, they can't be in agreement with hurricane trajectory, like paths and stuff anymore, because the Uranus-Pluto square, Uranus causes abnormalities. And yeah, then there was the T-square with Jupiter, and Jupiter is the ancient ruler as well with Neptune, so that would have to do with water. So there's going to be abnormalities with weather, because that's an ongoing problem. So any of the databases that have, saved information with old storms are not actually going to be helpful for anyone. So we're actually going to have to start from square one and actually, relearn some of the esoteric occult sciences and merge them with the science that we do know in order to understand and figure some things out, which is exactly what I've done. So we're going to have to start from square one, and we're going to have to find a new way to credit sources, or to be able to, pinpoint which ones are not real sources, or have potentially, malicious intent or motives. We're going to have to go strictly on motives. And what better transit than Jupiter going into Scorpio, because Scorpio is all about, motives and intention, the higher vibration of Mars. So your rational thinking and the methodical, the methodical process that goes on behind motivations. So if you dissect, find out who the origin of the source is coming from for the information or the product or whatever, or the help, or anybody speaking out, vice versa, and understand the motives of the source and the characteristics and the dynamic of the source. Then you will be able to go off of that to determine if what they're projecting or what they're telling you or what they're offering to help you is actually intentional deception, or if it's genuine attempts to help you heal or teach you or something. So it'll be the manifestation of being able to tell if a source or a person or a place or thing or organization is manifesting the embodiment of Ceres in Taurus or Eris in Taurus. This is very crucial for people to do this, because it'll be between life and death if you don't. So I'm going to show some basic examples on how to detect that sort of thing from a Plutonian's Scorpio Mercury point of view. And as the transit, of course, goes on with Jupiter Scorpio, everybody else will kind of have temporarily, at least for the transit time, the Scorpio Mercury sort of Sherlock Holmes, process. And hopefully it'll stick, because people's survival capacities right now are pathetic. Anyway, I'm going to stop blabbing. Not everybody is thoroughly educated on what the asteroids are, the asteroid points. I try to discourage it, at least personally with me, but of course, I'm my own devil's advocate, and I also do have the capacity, I have all the references, more or less, to look into these things. And sometimes when I get bored and I'm researching stuff, I will, look at stuff that I'm not necessarily thrilled about. Or sometimes I actually intentionally go and check out things that I have stigmas or opinions against, that sort of thing. So I did that as of recently. Looked into Eris, I've already made a video about that. But Ceres was another one. And the only reason actually why I even bothered to look is because when I had a reading from another astrologer, he mentioned that I have a Ceres opposition Chiron in the galactic center, which is the key to my psychic channeling thing that I have. So since I've been trying to figure out how the hell that works, I know that psychic phenomenon or Neptune kind of associated things, more or less. It's pretty much impossible and pointless for you to try to figure it out, but of course I'm going to try, and I at least kind of want to know, when I'm feeling certain things or whatever, what that might mean. I don't expect to be able to dissect everything, but I'm a Scorpio Mercury and I freaking want to know things, right? So Ceres in particular actually has a lot to do with therapy, self-therapy, and therapy that you can get from other people. It's supposed to represent the Mother Earth, Mother Goddess, so a way that you can nurture yourself. So obviously every single planet or asteroid point or midpoint or whatever has three different facets in which it can influence you: mentally, spiritually, and physically. The fish are been tested for radioactivity. They look like they've been burnt or scorched, which again references that Nostradamus quatrain that I started freaking out about almost 2 years ago, about the fish boiling hectically. And that particular quatrain had similarities to another one that had planetary aspects mentioned in it, or symbolism, of ancient or medieval astrology. So that was how I kind of calculated that sort of thing. But yeah, so be aware of that. I was about to grab oranges and stuff while I was at Walmart. I know I could be shopping better places, but it was also 3 o'clock in the morning. But one thing in particular is that the entire West Coast, like the coastline, not only is the water that's coming up from the beach toxic, but obviously the rain, right? From the radiation, more or less, a lot of the groundwater in California has been contaminated, regardless if that's from the radiation itself or if that's from the way that they irrigate things. So a lot of the oranges, unfortunately, unless you get them from Florida, which I only get them from Florida, say California on them, and I'm like, oh, hell no. And I've even seen, like, I'm in Washington State, okay? I'm like 3 hours away from Canada. I'm not saying California's far, but for, the Hispanic families or whatever to, that try to sell their produce on the side of the road, for them, because it would be one thing if, like, they're selling Washington produce, I understand. For them to bring up California oranges and try to sell them on the side of the road up 3 hours away from friggin' Canadian border, that makes me wonder what the fuck that's about. I think that people are probably getting... well, I would assume that if the groundwater's toxic, people have been continually getting sick in California from produce and stuff. So then people were likely, because it's their livelihood, I can understand that to an extent, are trying to go elsewhere to sell it. But that's the thing that bothers me the most right now, is that specifically too, if you go to discount grocery stores like I do, there's a place called Grocery Outlet here. I've been watching some things, and as I was driving home from the store, I saw on the big billboard says 1 pound of shrimp for $1.99. And I've been pointing out to people that the prices of fish have been going down for like the last at least 8 to 12 months, substantially just pitfalling. And the fact that I've never seen, like, I go to that store all the time, I've never ever seen, because I'm not a fan of seafood more or less, but I have people that I live with that would probably die for that shrimp, right? And they will. But I'm like, wow. I've never seen them. Yeah, no, I've never seen them have shrimp there, because they only have what is excess that doesn't sell. So stores like that, I'm actually kind of skeptical and apprehensive about necessarily buying a lot from that, unless you can prove that it's completely artificial food. And I guess that would be the only benefit at this point in time to ever eating anything artificial. It's not necessarily good for you, but at this point I've had this, back and forth argument with myself, an indecision about, well, I know I'm not supposed to eat, processed stuff, but at this point, processed stuff might be healthier than the non-processed stuff, because the organic origins of these things are poisonous now, or toxic. So, yeah. Anyway, this is supposed to be a positive thing about being healthy, but I turned it into a plutonian thing yet again. I'm warning you about, if you start to get in the hype of the series Taurus Mars vibe, to not be fooled by people who have no integrity and no decency, and they would prefer their own profits, because that's the world we live in nowadays. They don't have any honor. They would prefer their profits to continue, as opposed to come out and have some sort of compassion or sympathy for people and let them know that their products are killing them. And not just killing them, because that's been a thing for a while, right? But that they intentionally know that their products are toxic, because they're well aware of what's actually happening and they're in cahoots or know people that are, know some of the higher elite kind of people that run the media that are making sure that this never gets broadcasted. That sort of thing. So this is your warning, and yeah. Not serious, and now I'm just going on a tangent, so it's just going to spiral out of control. I'm going to go. See ya.
Is there someone there who cares for God-forsaken souls and God-forsaken man? Is there someone there who cares?